I'm Cookie, and welcome back to another episode of the Untold Origins, the series where I talk about the backstories of one or multiple minor characters from my series Legends. In today's episode, I'll be talking about Flower. Born in the north side of the evergreen forest, Flower lived in a special part of the forest called the Tree Sanctuary, or simply the tree. Long ago, Flower's ancestors infused a sapling with nature magic, which then grew into a giant magical tree that would dwarf the entire forest. At least, it would if it was visible to the naked eye. Because of the magic, a barrier was created that surrounded the tree, as well as additional territory. This barrier only allows animals and people with pure hearts through. Those who cannot pass are forced through an illusionary forest, where the trees are constantly moving to direct trespassers away from the tree sanctuary. As a result, it has become a safe haven for all the forest inhabitants, in which Flower's ancestors cared for. Due to their ties to nature and constant use of magic, even staying in fairy form all the time, these ancestors evolved into nymphs. Flower and her mother Petal are nymphs, while her father Stump is a werewolf. Her parents were in charge of caring for the tree and all the animals. From a young age, Flower started learning from them so that one day she'll take over their responsibilities. Her early life was spent watching over the animals, learning about their ways of living, each of their needs, and how to care for the sick and injured. Many animals came and went, but a few lived in the safety of the tree, so Flower had plenty of friends. One day, a wolf came for a visit, one her parents knew very well. Flower, I want you to meet Tara, the current leader of the Protectors. It's lovely to meet you, young nymph. It's lovely to meet you too. As a protector, Tara is tasked with keeping nature in balance and works closely with Flower's family to do so. Therefore, Flower had many interactions with her growing up, allowing her to learn more about the Protectors. Besides that, though, not much happened to her. Her days were the same, caring for animals and playing with them when she was bored. Though occasionally, her parents would take her on walks around the evergreen, away from the tree. These were Flower's favorite days. Her parents did have one simple rule to follow: never leave the tree on her own. Of course, she broke it and ventured out into the wilderness when her parents were extremely busy. She didn't travel far, but she spent quite a while exploring before they realized she had wandered off. While it was mostly fun and games to her, Flower eventually heard sounds belonging to a potentially dangerous animal. She focused on trying to get away, listening to the sounds, which caused her to not pay attention to where she was going, and she ended up stepping into a bear trap. Flower immediately started panicking, afraid that something was going to get her. Against better judgment, she started screaming and crying, though fortunately it was her parents that found her first. They freed Flower and took her home to be treated. Though they were upset, they were mostly relieved. After calming down, Flower and Petal talked about what had happened, with Flower being confused as to why a bear trap would be there to begin with. I don't understand. You said the kingdom banned these kinds of stuff. Well, rules are made, but not everyone follows them. I mean, you broke gravel today, did you not? After that, Flower learned her lesson and never did something like that again. Over the next few years, she matured a lot, mainly due to what had happened to her. She realized that people can be selfish and have the drive to hurt others for their own gain. But she also knew that they could be kind. Her parents taught her well on how to never hold resentment towards someone based on who they were born as, but based on their character and actions. Though Flower would be upset every time she saw someone causing harm, she kept an open mind and believed that anyone could change. As her parents got older, she took on more responsibilities around the tree. Still, she made sure to spend time with her parents. However, one day, Flower's world turned upside down. While on a walk with her parents, an injured enchanted animal, a nymphwolf, ran towards them with poachers in pursuit. Stump took immediate action against them, holding them off with magic while Flower and Petal helped the nymphwolf, who was struggling to keep moving. Petal then realized that she was pregnant, hence why she couldn't really move. She told Flower to transform into her wolf form and put the nymph on her back. Then she told her to run while she went back to help Stump. Flower quickly made it back to the tree and started helping the nymphwolf give birth, despite wanting to go help her parents. Unfortunately, only one pup was delivered before she died, and though Flower tried to rescue the remaining pups, she was unsuccessful. She gave the surviving pup to one of the resident wolves and went off to help her parents. As she ran, she didn't hear any signs of fighting, which at first she thought was a good thing since it meant the poachers had left. However, while she was correct, it wasn't because her parents had drove them out, but rather because Petal and Stump were dead. Flower was heartbroken and blamed herself for being too late to help them. She took them back to the tree and buried them along with the nympho. All the animals grieved for their sudden deaths. Flower knew that the only way to make it up to her parents was to honor their legacy and continue caring for the animals in spite of her grief, especially the pup. Hey, it's all right, little one. I know you're sad, but don't worry. You're not the only one who's lost their family. I'll look out for you from now on. Since this pup was quite small, she named her Tiny. The next few months were the hardest to get through in Flower's life. Thankfully, she had the support of the animals helping her through. Even though it was her job to care for them, they ended up caring for her so she can focus on grieving and accepting the loss of her parents. She also nursed Tiny back to health, which helped her keep busy and find renewed purpose. After about a year, Flower had finally accepted her parents' deaths and returned to a new normalcy. Things were great for the next few months. With Tiny's help, the tree was thriving better than ever. Also, without her parents, Flower had to be the one to continue meeting with Tara. Though sometimes she visited, Flower had to start traveling to the south side of the Evergreen to see her, meaning she had to travel through Wolverina. One day when she was heading home, she came across something she had never seen before, a large red and white tent that was large enough to fit like 100 people. Curiosity got the better of her and she went to check it out. As she got closer, she heard a lot of noises, ones that she didn't recognize. She snuck her way in and saw what was going on. A bunch of people, and to her horror, animals doing tricks. Unbeknownst to Flower, she had stumbled across a circus, and though a lot of people were enjoying the show, she could tell the animals were in distress. She again snuck to where the animals were being held. There, she spotted an animal she had never seen before, but knew of thanks to her parents, a lion. While staring, the two of them made eye contact. Don't worry, I'll come back and free you, I promise. She quickly made it home and devised a plan with Tiny to rescue all the animals. It took a while, but a fairly simple plan was made. There was no way they would be able to sneak out all the animals, so they leaned into causing chaos instead. Flower realized that the escaped animals would be scared of the audience, forcing fairies to come and protect them, which would result in them realizing that the animals were being kept in horrible conditions. She hoped that this would lead to the circus being shut down and all the animals returned home. On the next day, they enacted their plan. Tiny and Flower snuck into the back of the tent where the animals were being held. The circus had barely started, so most of them were still in their cages. They freed the largest animals first, the elephants. Though they were hesitant to leave, Flower convinced them that this would help regain their freedom. So, with the little strength they had, they charged into where the performance and audience was. Chaos immediately erupted, though Flower stayed focused on freeing the remaining animals. When there were only a few left, she told Tiny to go ensure that the animals were okay. Eventually, the only one left to rescue was the lion. But once being freed, after a second, he ran. Flower quickly scanned for any more animals, which resulted in her not realizing that a person was coming right at her. And it just so happened to be the ringmaster of the circus, Trey. By the time she turned around and recognized the threat, he had whipped at her, hitting her eye. Being caught off guard, she fell to the ground, clutching her eye in pain with Trey looming over her.
Look at what you've done. You've ruined everything. And for that, let me show you what happens when you monsters mess with humans.
Before Trey could strike Flower again, the lion swiftly killed him. The two of them quickly limped away, with Flower catching a glimpse of a werecat approaching the now dead ringmaster. Once outside, the lion collapsed. Things had calmed down significantly. Fairies were assessing the animals for wounds and bouncing up the performance. Eventually, Flower convinced them to let her take the animals back to her tree, where they be cared for while she and the fairies organized their way home. Once at the tree, she began caring for all of them, especially the lion. When he woke up, she introduced herself, which then he did the same, introducing himself as Leon. Flower could tell that Leon was skeptical about the whole situation, but slowly she gained his trust, and the two of them formed quite a strong bond. It was so strong, in fact, that when it was time for Leon to leave, he chose to stay. Eventually, the rest of the animals were returned to their respective homes. Though Flower risked a lot to save them, she knew it's what her parents would have done, and she's glad she's made them proud. And that's all I have for this video. There's quite a bit more into Flower's backstory, but I can't discuss this since it's spoilers to the main plot. Flower is actually one of the first characters introduced to the story, and out of all the characters I've discussed in this series, she's the most important. Anyway, make sure to comment below what you thought of her backstory. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye!